Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching Killer Machine 11 playing in his Tier 7 American Reward Tank Destroyer, the T28 HTC. Now you might be wondering, oh, why more gameplay on this tank? And that's because I was watching back the tank review of this vehicle that I put out last week, and if you haven't watched that tank review, I thoroughly recommend checking it out, especially before you watch this so you can kind of understand the video a little bit more. And I realized that that was a 20-minute video and I think there was only about 5 minutes of gameplay. That's because this is quite a complicated tank, there's a hell of a lot to talk about, but I feel like the gameplay is rather simple. But then again, sometimes the most simple things are capable of incredible results, and that's certainly going to be the case here for Killer Machine 11. And also, I put out a video yesterday that was on Wargaming's new fair play policy, and that had absolutely no gameplay in it as well, so I can't leave you this week without some kind of gameplay, right guys? So I've got your back. So, Killer Machine 11 is in quite a matchup here. He is one of only 4 top-tier tanks, Tier 7 tanks on his team. Same for the enemy team, and there's only one self-propelled gun, which is the absolute bane of this tank. The SU-122A on the enemy team, Tier 5, not too much to worry about. Well, it will still definitely remove his hit points at an alarming rate, considering this tank only has 880 hit points. As I discussed in my tank review last week, it isn't the fastest of tanks either. While it is capable of a top speed limit of 29 kilometers an hour, we can clearly see the tank doesn't have the ground resistances or the horsepower to ton ratio to be able to get there. But when it does finally get into position, Killer Machine is going to be showing you just how devastating this 105mm main armament is on the T28 HTC. Now this is the same kind of gun that you can get on the standard T25. Obviously, the turreted tank, the T25-2, uses a 90mm instead of 105. One of the advantages of having a non-turreted tank is that you can usually equip a higher caliber gun tier for tier on. When we look at, for example, the Conway has a 120mm gun. Many of the other tier 9 tank destroyers have got either 124 or is it 128mm guns on the Germans, and also a vehicle like the Object 704, which is infamous, has a 152mm BL-10. And when we look at the Charioteer as an example, that's again using 105mm, although with very impressive penetration and gun handling characteristics at tier 8, where there are tanks like the ISU-152 that again have 152mm. So usually when you sacrifice having a turret, you usually gain quite a big gun. And I wouldn't say that this is the biggest gun on a tier 7 tank destroyer, because there is the SU-152, for example, that can use 152mm, although it doesn't have very high penetration, or alternatively can equip itself 122mm that has one of the most scary DPMs in the game. Unfortunately, the T28 HTC doesn't have the most scary DPM in the game. Its DPM is exactly 1,920, which is far from impressive. But the main thing about this tank is doing this to your opponents. Look how Killer Machine is angling his tank round the corner here. Against this IS, he is only exposing the lower front plate of his tank. And you'd think that that would be a stupid thing to do, right, in many vehicles, but not in the T28 HTC, as he blows the... I thought he was going to ammo rack him there. It sounded like an ammo rack. That was quite a loud sound effect. But he doesn't blow his head clean off, but he might as well have, taking out the top tier Soviet heavy tank on the enemy team, and turns round just in time to stop an ambush of tanks. There's a KV-85. He auto-aims at it, shuts it down. Will he have any support? Well, I guess the support's probably going to be running for the hills. Yeah, the T-34 is now slowly backing off, thinking, how am I going to get out of this one? Buddy, you are not getting out of this one, as Killer Machine picks up his 4th kill of the game. So, yeah, remember from my tank review, the lower plate on this tank, Killer Machine did it absolutely perfectly. The 2 places that you want to avoid getting shot in this tank are here and here. 101mm of armor, and you can shoot it from pretty much everywhere when you're engaging the tank. Even frontally, you can shoot these 101mm weak points. But the lower plate is absolutely golden. 200mm of raw armor, and when you angle that, it goes up to about 240mm of penetration. And so even if the IS was dabbing his 2 key and firing premium rounds, he would still have to roll exceptionally high with the penetration characteristics, that maybe plus 20% out of plus 25%, to have a chance of damaging Killer Machine. And he's living up to his name here, right, guys? He is showing you what a killer machine this T28 HTC can be in these kind of situations. Ripping apart his enemies. 5 kills now, 3,000 damage done. And his team is still drastically behind. They are down by 4 tanks, I believe, right now. 3 versus 7. He's definitely got his work cut out for him here. He's got a KV-3 to his left. He's got a T34-85 to his right. And what is that buzzing sound? Where is that coming from? I'm going to have to go into third person. Investigate where the bees are. What the hell? The bees are over here, guys. What is up with that? Okay, I won't get distracted. Sorry about that momentary lapse of conversation. Let's turn our attention back to killing the Nashorn as he shuts it down. The KV-3 has made his way inside the cap circle, or in fact he hasn't actually. He's shooting round the corner, firing some shots through the bushes, but he's unable to get spotted. But the KV-3 frankly isn't helping his allies out enough right now. The way to take out a T28 HTC is to either know about the weak points here, or to try and swarm it, get its side, track it, hold it in place, and shut it down. An SU-152 on the enemy team sneaks around the corner and shuts down the T29 on Killer Machine's team as he decides to progress the fight towards the KV-3. He auto-aims at him, penetrates him once, unauto-aims, reverses, shoots the mid-plate of the KV-3, shutting him down, and thankfully it only looks like there's 1 tank in the cap circle, because when you're in a vehicle that pretty much only goes at about 20, at most 25 kilometers an hour along the flat, it's going to take you a while to get there. Finally, an APCR round hits his tank, probably from a T34-85. Unable to penetrate his vehicle, he hasn't taken a single hit point of damage, guys. 4,600 damage done, 8 kills. And how much has he blocked? 3,990 damage blocked this game. This T34-85 is at least being remotely sensible in his approach of taking out this killer machine. Oh wow, a ricochet off the T34-85's turret. That is rather awkward. And finally, a T34-85 which seems to be posing him a bit of problems. And he has had a very good game as well. 4 kills in the Tier 6 Soviet medium tank. Now he's decided to get above the T28 HTC. And this tank's gun elevation, it's not that impressive, but it's not all that bad. He should be able to aim up at the T34-85, and he indeed does, putting 1 into the turret there. But he wants to reverse. He wants to make sure that the T29 doesn't get his flank. But by doing this, surely he's going to be exposing himself to the artillery. What a shot! He didn't fully aim it, but the shell flew true, going right into that Tier 6 Soviet medium tank and shutting down the T34-85, and frankly, one of the most dangerous players on the enemy team that he certainly had to watch out for. Now with the threat from above dealt with, he can turn his tank around and deal with a T29, an SU-152 that took out that T29 on his team, is going to be approaching him rapidly from the west along the valley. So he just needs time. The artillery misses him. Beautiful result. And Killer Machine is doing exactly what you need to do in the T28 HTC. When you come around the corner, you do not side scrape. You just give them your lower plate, unless they've got about 250 millimeters of pen plus, and just hope that you're going to bounce, or in this kind of matchup, almost certainly bounce, and just pick apart your opponents one by one. Now up to 5,500 damage and 9 kills with 3 enemy tanks remaining. There is no doubt here that Killer Machine has single-handedly carried this game, getting back into the cap circle, flushing out the T34-85 from him, and then dealing with him from above, and now having to deal with 2 equal tier tanks. The SU-152 ricochets off his tank. That was an AP round. It sounds like it was 152mm, and we can see by the length of the gun barrel there, it was the 152mm gun. Oh gosh, he leaves the T29 on 19 hit points, but it wasn't that bad of a roll of 343, and this looks like the easiest kill yet as he finishes him off. Finally, the T29 manages to penetrate his tank. The SU-152 bounces another 152mm round off the vehicle, and Killer Machine doesn't hesitate in shutting him down. Where did that T29 penetrate? I can't even see. Do you think he over-angled his tank and he shot through the tracks here? Seeing how his left tracks are damaged, it would actually suggest he shot through the other side of the vehicle, but we can't quite see. I'd have to review that. It's, you know, you're kind of really starting to dig around in a replay if you're looking as to the single shot that has penetrated his tank out of the 16 hits that he has received. And it hasn't exactly been very low caliber guns that have been hitting Killer Machine's tank here. He's been shot by 85mm. He's been shot by 105mm, as we saw on that T29 there. He's also been shot by some 152mm guns, although those 152mm guns don't quite have the penetration the same as the T29, which would be 200mm. So you found yourself in this kind of a situation. His heart must be racing right now. Can you imagine being on 11 kills and 6,000 damage in a tier 7 tank, and definitely being the favorite to win this situation? But he's also got to be careful here, because all the SU-122A has to be doing is probably sneaking his way along this part and end up in the cap circle. And thankfully this isn't like the T95, where he literally probably wouldn't be able to get to the enemy cap circle in time to be able to cap out, or alternatively get back to his base to be able to defend it. It has got a little bit of speed, guys. It's not like the 13. It's pretty much twice as fast as a T95 when we look at it. And we've got to be thinking, what is the hit points of the SU-122A? I'm not entirely sure about that. I think it's about 200, which means that he should be able to one-shot him if he finds him. But he needs to be able to get into the cap circle quickly. In these kind of situations, with only 4 minutes left on the game, you've got to give yourself at least 1 minute and 40 seconds, i.e. 100 seconds, to be able to cap out the enemy base. And so that's his #1 priority right now, is to get towards the enemy base as quickly as he can to start that countdown to force the SU-122A to come and try and find him. And even if the SU-122A does come and find him, he has got enough hit points to take a shot unless he manages to penetrate him, maybe from above. This is what I'd be worried about right now. When you're playing on Mountain Pass, God, this was a 38%. This is a great result for Killer Machine if he manages to take this one down. The artillery are likely to be hiding up on this ridge here, or alternatively, they're quite likely to be in the bushes at the back here. Will we find the SU-122A ready to shut him down? Or alternatively, some of the artillery even like to make their way up along this slope, and they can perch over the ridge line here, waiting for the enemy tank to enter the cap circle, and then somehow drive their way back up to be able to get a shot in. But fortunately for Killer Machine, it doesn't look like the enemy artillery is planning that, and he starts the cap. Now 90 seconds left to go. Can he manage it? Where is this SU-122A going to be coming from? He's not really pre-aimed here. I think he's very worried about where the SU-122A could be. I can't remember if he's had Sixth Sense in this battle. I'd have to rewind it to take a look. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Gosh, where's that SU-122A going to be? Where would you be thinking? This is such an open cap. It's really one of the hardest ones to try and figure out right now. Perhaps sitting in these bushes. Perhaps making his way up. Oh, he's going to start blind firing him. Now, is he going to do the funky tactic of going and sitting exactly where the artillery shot? Surely lightning doesn't strike twice, right, guys? And so some people I've seen in replays like to drive over the location where the artillery last shot, because then the artillery is probably going to try and shoot somewhere else, exactly as we see there. Although you're taking a risk that the enemy artillery doesn't think that you are randomly going to do that and then go into that second place. I think the worst places you could be sitting right now would be towards the middle. If I was going to shoot in this kind of a situation, I would probably try to splash towards the center, especially if there were still the crates up. Then I would try and shoot probably around about this location towards the hill, maybe around here. And so you want to try and position yourself in positions where you don't think the enemy are going to be. 10 more seconds left. Is the artillery going to hit him? He no longer has time to be able to cap again if the artillery hits him now. The final shell doesn't come. He caps out. Killer Machine secures the game, and there's the flash from the artillery. Just a little too late. That little explosion. Unable to hit Killer Machine. He takes this one down. 11 kills, 6,000 damage, and frankly, Killer Machine was almost the entire team in this gameplay. Pretty much as you would expect a T28 HTC in the right situation, with the right skills, the right knowledge about his tank, and isolating his opponents, keeping his frontal armor to them, and taking them down one by one by one. What a result here for Killer Machine. Just take a look at this absolute insane result here. Killer Machine undoubtedly gets the ace tanker, because this was 2,272 base experience points, one of the highest I've ever seen in a tank destroyer. In addition, he secures a Pools medal for his 11 kills, a cool-headed medal for surviving at least 10 ricochets, a defender medal for the 77 base defense points that he pulled off, I think against the T3485 on the enemy team. He also unsurprisingly gets a steel wall for the 5,000 1,230 damage that he blocked this game, an invader for capping out at the end, and unsurprisingly a high caliber for the 6,329 damage that he dealt to the enemy team. More than his entire team combined. Killer Machine, congratulations to you on the greatest T28 HTC battle that I have personally been able to find. It showcased all of the strengths of the vehicle that I tried to highlight in my tank review last week, and thank you so much for uploading your awesome round on the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, this bonus gameplay. If you did, please consider giving the video a like, it really helps the channel out. And click through up here or use that more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen if for some reason you missed my full tank review on the T28 HTC last week, or if now after seeing this it interests you a lot more. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.